joining us on a Sunday morning, welcome to our church. We have to name this like Church of the Respected Life or something. I don't know.
And on? There it is. Is it on? Yeah. Okay. Good. We're on.
You're in for a special treat. I'm David Schafer. I founded Featherman Equipment about 15 years ago, and we love Mother Earth, and we asked them, do you think we could put on a live demonstration? And they said, well, why not? Who else would say why not? And, so kudos, hats off to Mother Earth for putting this together, letting us be here. We know you guys are in a hopping place because they always do their homework about where they plop these sites down, and we're just overwhelmed with the crowd. Thank you for being here early on Sunday morning. Really appreciate it. We're going to have an amazing thing for you here. I expect you're going to be stunned with what happens here today. I'm just curious, how many people have not been before Joel Salatin's speaking before? Well, that's wonderful, because you're going to be so confirmed by your resolution to get into farming, because you're going to find out that one of the most brilliant, wise, and eloquent, articulate people you've ever come across wants to be a farmer and chooses that as his highest calling. And that's validating for me. I think you'll feel the same way too. We're in for a great treat. So please help me welcome the world's favorite farmer, Joel Salatin.
It's great to be with you, and it's also great to be able to have the kind of infrastructure today to be able to launch our pasture poultry enterprises forward. When we started several decades ago, this kind of machinery, this kind of material didn't exist. And as a teenager, we used a hot tub over a wood fire and a little horizontal,
drum rolling
tabletop, deal.
Tabletop.
And my sister, who was 5 years younger, was my slave, and we'd butcher these chickens after school and could do a few, and then when we kind of launched the business, we looked around and there weren't very many options, and so the fact that there are these kinds of low cost, low capital options today are just fantastic. It's it's mobile, it's modular, so you can finance your way, you can retain earnings your way into expansion if you want to. So it's modular, you can upgrade as you will, and it's management intensive. This takes a fair amount of. This is not just robotic stuff. It's very visceral and very into it. So I think as we start, it's good to just deal with one of the bigger thorny issues that we have a lot more trouble with today than we did 40 years ago, and that's the whole animal welfare. Haven't we gotten beyond animals and animal farming, livestock, and that sort of thing, and taking a life? And so we like to just pause here at this point, to respect the life that the chickens have given, but to make the point that, the fact is that everything is eating and being eaten. And if you don't believe it, go lie naked in your flower bed for 3 days and see what gets eaten. The truth is that this amazing pillar of ecology, of the way the world works, of life, death, decomposition, regeneration, life, death, decomposition, regeneration. That's what's going on in the compost pile. I mean, a lot of bacteria and bugs are eating each other and dying, and then decomposing and then regenerating. This is what makes life life. And the folks that say, well, but these are sentient. Well, let me tell you something. All of creation is sentient. And just because trees and plants communicate in pheromones and phytochemicals instead of moos and chirps does not mean that the universe is any less sentient than anything else. Trees respond to touch. Maple trees respond to the breeze that blows. And so there's a tremendous amount of communication going on. And so we just simply want to pause to respect all of life and to appreciate that the sacrifice that's necessary, that something may be fed, is sanctified by how we honor and appreciate the life while it's living. And that's what makes the sacrifice honoring and special. And so because these chickens have had a life that that has allowed them to fully express their chickenness out on pasture, getting some green grass and bugs, and not just living a life in fecal particulate, honors their life and therefore sanctifies the sacrifice they're going to give that we may in turn live. That has profound spiritual and ecological and stewardship implications. So let us just appreciate the life we've been given and the gravity of the sacrifice that is being made, that we then may take this energy and go and do better with our lives. That actually our lives are actually accentuated by our sacrifice to one another. And a marriage works better when one sacrifices for the needs of the other. Children are raised better when parents sacrifice for them. Parents are better parents when kids sacrifice for them. And the fact is that when we give our lives for each other, that's when we're regenerated into a better community and a tribe of people. So let us appreciate that as we go through the exercise this morning of processing the chickens.
Let me give a few more acknowledgments. First of all, to our farmer, Jeff, for bringing us these nice chickens. Jeff and Kathy Pretter live not far from here, 5th generation farm, Jeff Lean Farm, and we're going to auction off his chickens at the end of the show here. So if you want any local raised and Joel Salatin processed chickens, one and only chance. Jeff, raise your hand, please. Thank you very much for bringing these fine chickens. Local grass-fed guy that led me to Jeff, and I also was very remiss not to tell you about the beauty on the stage here, Rose Between Two Thorns. This is my mate Renee, who's keeps my life together and pushes me gently forward into the higher callings all the time. And thanks for helping out. She's our camera person, our Vanna White camera person. And then, thank you. And then Matt Williamson is my new Featherman extension up here in the Northland. He's outside of the Twin Cities. Matt, please raise your hand. He's got his son Charlie on his lap. He's a brilliant young guy who believes more in some of my equipment's potential than I do, it seems like, and I need people like that pushing me forward. So thank you, Matt, for helping out. Thank you, Jeff, for your chickens. Thank you, Renee, for being here. All right. We've got some brochures and cards from our farmer. I expect you'll want to patronize him. Let's see. Who else do we need to acknowledge? I think we're ready to. So the format is we have eight chickens, 8 fine chickens. They've been raised on pasture. They're about 8 weeks old. We are going to run through 4 at a time. We'll start by bleeding them out, scalding them, picking them, and then Joel will explain the process of gutting them. And we guarantee that by the time you're out of this presentation, you'll have confidence to do it. We hear it time and time again. Oh, I saw you last year, and we went home and did it. By golly, it really worked. You know, so we want to empower you to do something that's we think really important. So, anything else before we get on the way, Joel? All right, we're still waiting for our ice.
No, we have our ice. We have ice.
Everything's here. Everything's here.
We're all good.
So Renee's going to keep the camera on me. If you, we would like to invite our young people, that is 10 and under, to take the seat right in the front. Any of the youngsters that want to come up here, you're more than welcome to do it. We did this last time in Oregon for the first time, and it was incredible because these folks get it and love it.
Yeah. And we think 10 is kind of a cutoff. If you wait till after 10, then it's kind of you're already callous with cynicism and contempt. But before 10, it's just part of visceral participation in the amazing awesomeness of life. And so we routinely at our farm, we have a very open door policy, and our customers come and the 7 and 8 year old kids come around and want to jump right in here and get involved while the parents are over having their barf bag in their car. So we think it's a quiet revolution of participatory involvement in life that we have children actually being introduced to this at an early age, and we salute you parents for having to realize that this kind of skill, I would submit, in the big scheme of things, is actually more self-affirming, more self-actualizing, and more meaningful in life than being the top points getter on Angry Birds. So the first thing we're going to do is... and even some of the kids are clapping.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right.
So Jeff took these birds off feed yesterday, so there's no particulate in their craw. They'll be very clean. Is that right? Yeah, that's what we usually do. Say again?
About 4:30 yesterday. You want them to come to this process fasting so that all their intestines and their crop and all that are cleaned out. Otherwise, you have a lot more problems with feed and different things.
Right. It all shows up here, makes things more difficult.
Yeah.
And they've been handled gently, and we will show you how we gently handle. First of all, we'll have a hold the chicken instruction. Okay, Joel?
Yeah.
All right. So you just tell Renee if you need a better angle. Okay. All right. So this is what Joel taught me. Everything I know about chickens, Joel taught me. So is it right? Is that the way you do it?
No. One finger.
Yeah.
If you want to hold a chicken, put your middle finger right between her legs like this, and let her breast sit. And that way you can kind of squeeze her feet a little bit, with your other two fingers. Are you with me? Everybody see that? Okay. And that way they can rest right in your hand. They can't scratch you because their feet they're just sitting here treading water if they start moving their feet. It's a comfortable position for the bird. And you can move the bird. This is actually, for those of you who are in 4-H or FFA, you're in poultry judging. This is the official way to hold a chicken, to look at her, and you can turn them upside down. You can do all sorts of things with them, but you have control there, and they can't fight you and scratch you and all that sort of thing. It's a very comfortable area for the chicken. And the best thing about this position is that no matter where you turn the bird, the rear end is away from you. That's important.
Yes. All right, thank you. I missed that 4-H period of life. All right. So, have you sprayed all these? So it's very important. Renee has used an organic vegetable spray to cover every conceivable surface in here, and that will make cleanup quick and easy. So she's upside down. She's gently compressed. If any of you have seen the Temple Grandin documentary where she builds herself a squeeze chute, this pacifies the animal. She's disoriented, and I'm going to gently extend the neck. And this is the ear.
It snugs the animal in so they're feeling hugged. Yeah, that's the whole idea.
And we can be grateful for this animal's life at this time.
Right. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to slit the jugular vein, the carotid artery, as close to the wattle as possible. If you feel your own throat, okay, your big arteries come up along your windpipe. Feel your windpipe feels like a vacuum hose, right? Okay, come up here, and as it comes up under your chin, it widens. So you have one that goes this way and one that goes this way. All right. So the closer to the head you slice the throat, the easier it is to get the artery and not cut the windpipe. If you're down here around the neck, not only is it logistically difficult because everything's kind of mushy and moves around, but also it's very easy. The chance is to get the windpipe and also the artery. So you don't want the bird to go into shock. This is essentially a halal or kosher technique where we don't use electrocution, we don't use gas. We want the autonomic nervous system to continue to function as best it can, because if the autonomic nervous system continues to function, all we're doing is allowing the heart and the lungs. The bird can still breathe. The lungs, the heart works, and it actually pumps the blood out of the body rather than draining the blood out of the body. You get birds from the supermarket. I hope nobody here does, but if you do, if you're at a church potluck and some of those, unbelievers are there with supermarket chickens. You'll see black around the bones. All right, that black is clotted blood. because in the industrial system, they do the electrocution or the gas, which shuts down the autonomic nervous system, so the blood drains, and you actually get a lot less blood out of the carcass than if you simply cut the artery and don't have the bird go and shock. That's why grandmas whack the head off with a hatchet and all that. No, that actually doesn't get nearly as much blood out as letting the bird fade. So the sensation here is simply a fadeaway. They flatline in about 1/10 of a second because the pressure to the brain is immediately gone, and they have the sensation of you ever put your head down and you get up real quick and it's kind of lightheaded. Well, that's the same sensation. It's just a dramatic loss of blood quickly. And the brain then flatlines pretty quickly.
And please explain what this movement
is. Yeah, and so now they're going through their muscular contractions as they die. This is all part of the of the contraction process. And the nice thing is that with the cones, this is now constricted to the cones, so they're not dislocating wings and bruising. Of course, technically with no blood, they can't bruise themselves, but the point is, it's a nice, clean, safe way. Nobody's going to have a bird, jump up their legs. And those of you who've worked with grandmas with a hatchet in the backyard, as a 2-year-old, there are 2-year-old traumas, from a headless chicken jumping up their legs. So this keeps everything safe for the bird, safe for the processor, and in a controlled environment. And they'll usually stop their contractions, within about 60 seconds. It's a pretty quick deal.
Right. And that's just oxygen starvation in the muscles. Yeah. So we designed this handy little turnabout. It was Joel's idea. He said it was the only thing keeping their farm from doing 200 birds per hour, which is a really lightning rate with an 8-man crew. He said if we could just have a wheel of misfortune, and so the operator stays in one place instead of going up and down the line, I think we could really have something. So we listened to Joel, of course, and the really nice thing about this is you do not move the birds a lot and jostle them. And my goal is always the squawkless exsanguination, as they call it, blood release. So
squawkless exsanguination. I wonder how many people this morning are hearing that word.
The chickens will tell you, and so we put.
And they say we're dumb farmers. Squawkless exsanguination.
The chickens will tell you how you're doing. So I don't need an animal rights certificate to tell me, what's humane. The chicken will tell me. So I have eight bleed out stations here, and room for 4 in the scalder. So this takes 2 minutes. Generally, I like to just be safe and have extra chickens here. So as we move through the line, if we were really in a heavy production here, everything would always be flowing. Nothing would ever be waiting on the next thing. We'd be trying to bury Joel, which is what the kids do at home, right?
Yeah. And David has done a wonderful job on design. You generally want we call this a disassembly line, and you want